we
that's
create
not creating
opportunity.
jobs.
We create opportunity because we
Sir,
we hold greedy CEOs like yourself accountable.
You're calling me a greedy CEO.
Oh yeah, you are.
During a Senate Help Committee hearing on labor relations, there was a bit of a heated exchange, and that's putting it very lightly, between Republican Senator Markwayne Mullin and Teamsters General President Sean O'Brien. So Mullin is a multimillionaire, runs a business. I'll get to more on that later. And of course, Teamsters General President Sean O'Brien is here talking about the importance of unions. And I don't think I've ever seen any committee hearing get this heated. This is one of the most entertaining clips you will ever see come out of a committee hearing. So I'm going to give you the full context. I'm going to pause, a couple times throughout just to give you some more context of some of the BS being pushed by one of the individuals here. But let's just start because this is too good. Here's the beginning of this exchange.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. And I want to make it very clear. I'm not against unions. I'm not at all. Some of my very good friends work for unions. They work hard and they do a good job. And so my statements, please don't make an assumption that I'm anti-union. But I also want to set the record straight. All three of you guys have talked about employers being intimidating their employees. But you guys haven't ever spoke about when the unions try to unionize, the intimidation they have to other people that aren't wanting to unionize. You guys don't mention that. Because, see, I started with nothing. Absolutely nothing. In fact, I started below nothing. And I started growing this little plumbing company with 6 employees to now we have over 300 employees.
All right, we're going to get to the exchange, but I had to pause it here and give you this clip for this context just to show you how much of a clown Mullin is. He claims here that he started with nothing. In fact, below nothing. He started below nothing. Born in Tulsa, Mullin became a businessman. At the age of 20, he took over his father's plumbing business. After his father became ill, he took over his father's business. This is, and you could almost see that in his entire attitude here. Just this total inability to see outside himself, to think that to him, starting with nothing is inheriting his dad's business. Like, do you understand how absolutely privileged you were? God, we're going to get to more, by the way, on Mullin and dealing with this next comment he makes. But let's continue this clip.
You talk about CEOs that are making all this money. And what do you make, Mr. O'Brien?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question.
Yeah, Senator. I know what you make because in 2019, your salary was, what is this, $193,000? I'm sure you got some pay raises since then.
Yeah, when I was around.
And the average UPS driver, the feeder driver, makes $35,000 a year.
That's
and what do you bring?
That's
to the
inaccurate.
Table? Hold on a second.
That's inaccurate. State facts.
I've got it right here.
State facts. That's inaccurate.
The average UPS feeder driver makes $35,000. If you don't know your facts, then maybe you should.
I know them because I negotiate the contract.
So I say one thing to you. What do you bring for that salary?
What do I bring?
Yeah. What job have you committed, or have you started? What job have you created? One job, other than sucking the paycheck out of somebody else that you want to say that you're trying to provide because you're forcing them to pay dues? And
no, we don't force them.
Senator, you've asked the question.
You're out of line.
Let him
man.
answer the
Actually, I
question.
haven't, and don't tell me I'm out of line.
You are out of line.
Don't tell me I'm out of line.
Well, you frame.
Don't tell me. I'm
frame,
making a
you
statement.
frame
Sir,
the statement
you
like
need
a
to
tough
shut your
guy.
mouth
Yeah.
because you don't know
You're
what
gonna
you're
tell me to shut
talking
my
about.
mouth?
Yes,
Yeah.
I did.
Hold it.
Yeah.
Hold it.
Yes, I
Tough
did.
guy. I'm not
Senator,
afraid of physical.
You
Senator,
don't have
hold
to be,
it.
but don't sit there and tell me I'm out of line.
Senator, you made a statement. You asked the question.
I didn't ask a question.
You did.
You did.
I answered the question.
You asked the question about how
Well, it
much
was
money you made.
rhetorical.
Let him answer.
It was a rhetorical
Well,
question,
you
sir.
may think it's rhetorical.
It was
Sounded to me
rhetorical.
like a question. Let him answer the question.
I'm not yielding my time to him. So if you're going to let me keep my time, that's fine.
You'll have your time. Let him. You ask
your
a question. He has
So-
a right to answer that.
As far as my salary goes, my salary, if you follow me around, I actually look at this building. I bet you I work more hours than you do. Twice as many hours.
That's impossible. But
No, that's true.
Sir, you don't even know what hard work is. You
Secondly,
wanna follow my schedule,
Secondly, I'll do it
please
in a
follow
minute. Secondly, UPS feeder drivers, and you can quote Carol Tomei, who quoted this, they make $93,000 on the lower end. Some of them
said
making
feeder drivers.
$150,000.
I said feeder drivers.
Feeder drivers, tractor trailer drivers. Some of them making $150,000 per year.
Some of them do.
And
I don't
most of them
disagree with that.
most of them
After
make
you've been
over-
there
most of them-
after you've been there 4 years.
Most of them make over $1,000.
Okay.
Most of them make over $100,000.
So reclaiming my time, I go back to the whole fact that, sir, you haven't created a job.
We haven't.
You haven't been there. You haven't.
Sure, we have.
You haven't.
Sure, we have.
Tell me one job that you created.
What are you talking? Be specific.
You're
Like,
an
what do you mean?
employer?
No, we're not
You
an
employ
employer.
people?
No, but it's funny.
So, no, then
we
hold on,
create,
then- then
we
that's
create
not creating
opportunity.
jobs.
We create opportunity because we
Sir,
hold
that's
we
not-
hold greedy CEOs
That's
like yourself
not-
accountable.
You're calling me a greedy CEO.
Oh yeah, you
There
are.
it is.
You want to attack my salary? I'll attack yours. What
go
did you
ahead.
make? What did you make when you owned your company?
When I made my company, I kept my salary down at about $50,000 a year because I invested every penny into it.
Okay, all right. You mean you hid money?
No, I didn't hide. Oh,
Oh,
hold on a second.
okay, go.
He said that's out of line.
One of the most entertaining clips you will ever see come out of any committee hearing. And I'm going to show you just how correct, how accurate Sean O'Brien's claim at the end there is. So wait for that. And there's also a little bit more in this clip that I'll get to later on that I want to address in terms of some issues around our discussions around right to work and some other union stuff. But first here, look, this whole attitude that Mullin has towards unions, towards Sean O'Brien here, the idea that only job creators, only business leaders or CEOs, only somehow only they create value for people because they create these jobs. Sean O'Brien, people like him directly raise wages. Their existence in society not only raise wages for people that are a part of unions, but people who also are not a part of unions. So this data, if you haven't seen this before, it is very important to be aware of this, to share this around. As union membership has fallen, the top 10% have been getting a larger share of income. So this is union membership in the red and share of income going to the top 10% in the blue, 1917 to 2014. The mere existence of unions, as you can see here, the higher that unions exist, or the more that they exist, the more income is going to everybody else. The mere existence of unions raises wages for everyone because it raises the standards in terms of what is acceptable in society. So when you have unionized workplaces offering their employees more because of the existence of those unions, that then is forces other companies to then raise their standards, raise their pay to their workers in order to compete. So the mere existence of unions benefits the working class, which is why you have seen this complete move towards, in terms of wealth, to the top 10% in the past 30 years or so because of the decimation of unions. There's no denying it. The data is clear. So in terms of who adds value to society, I would argue that Sean O'Brien adds a hell of a lot more value to society and actual working class individuals than someone like Mullin does. Now, in terms of Mullin and this $50,000, he only made $50,000. Come on. I'm not sure if Brian looked this stuff up. I should say O'Brien looked this stuff up. But Mullin earned $600,000 plus in outside income against House rules when he was a freshman congressman. So Mullin personally advertised for the companies and serves as an officer or board member for the companies in violation of House rules and standards of conduct. The report by the Office of Congressional Ethics details how Mullin earned more than $600,000 from the plumbing companies last year. He characterized some of the income as distributions from one of the companies that is now directly owned by his wife. $50,000, my rear end. And the idea of him comparing how much CEOs make to the $190K that Sean O'Brien makes, we are talking about billionaires versus $190K. I'm actually surprised how low that is for the general president of the Teamsters. He's only making $190K. Like, you could almost see that. Like, I wonder if Mullin even read what he was about to read, because you almost see how deflated he was when he read out his salary, when he read out Sean O'Brien's salary, because it seems like he was expecting a little more. Because like, well, you made $190K, and I'm sure you've gotten raises since then, because he knows $190K for the general president is not a whole hell of a lot of money, especially when you compare it to billionaire CEOs who continue extracting value from their workers, who actually are the ones generating any sort of profit for their companies. Now, we're not done with Mr. Mullin. No, we are not. Sean O'Brien, shortly after that exchange, tweeted this out. For the record, Mullin saw his reported assets balloon from a range of $7.3 million to $29.9 million at the end of 2020 to a range of $31.6 million to $75.6 million. Yet Mullin has the audacity to try and compare Sean O'Brien's salary of $190,000 to the average UPS driver at what he claims is around like $30,000, $40,000. He has the audacity to make that comparison when he is worth tens of millions of dollars. Do you think his plumbers are making $10 million a year? Like, come on. This is so, for him to try and criticize O'Brien for his salary when he clearly is worth a hell of a lot more money than his employees are. It's just so incredibly dishonest. And it goes to showing you, Democrats need to have this kind of attitude towards these Republican clowns. The way Sean O'Brien, dished out this exchange, had this exchange with Mullin here, was just perfect. This is how you talk down to these clowns. This is how you do it. I hope, we see more examples of this in the future. Don't treat these people with respect when they don't deserve it. Now, is there more here? Oh, yeah, of course. One more before I get to the last part of the clip here. Mullin had over $1.4 million in PPP loans forgiven, while he here is arguing against student debt forgiveness. And again, this man worth tens of millions of dollars. Let's get to the last part of the clip here, and then I want to address some of the comments made.
You said
All right,
I was out.
we're even.
We're not even. We're not even close to being even. You think it's smart? You think you're funny?
No,
you're not.
You think you're funny.
No, I never said. Did I smile?
You frame
Did I
your
laugh?
opening
Hold
statement.
on.
You frame your opening
right.
statement
No,
saying you're a tough
Senator,
guy.
continue. Senator, please
This
continue
is
your
behavior,
statements.
but sir, this is. I think it's great that you're doing this because
Me too.
this shows their behavior on how they try to come in and
No, I-
unionize a shop.
know.
No, it's
and
just-
they say about intimidation, and it's not about intimidation.
This
it's
may
about the
show your
employee's
behavior
support.
here. But stay on the issue, please.
The issue is, if you're really for the employee, then why are you against right to work? Why are you against private ballots?
Mullin here pretending he is for the workers because he is for private ballots and right to work. Here is the reality. Of course, he is full of crap. Right to work laws basically interfere with the ability of unions to collect dues from workers who enjoy union protections. Trickle-down politicians in 28 states that have passed right to work bill these laws as a way to save workers money. But really, they starve unions of funds, power, and bargaining capability. The unions who have successfully gotten the workers better pay, adequate breaks, and safe hours. And before I get to more on that, all you really have to know is that you have billionaires donating millions of dollars to right-wing Midwestern governors pushing for right-to-work laws. Why would billionaires and massive corporations be funding right-wing politicians who are anti-union, or I should say, who are pro-right-to-work, if it was going to hurt them, if it was going to help their employees and hurt them financially? Why would they be doing that? They wouldn't. They're doing this clearly because it benefits them. They want right to work because it benefits their bottom line. That is what they have, a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders to ensure that they make as much money as possible. They do that by extracting as much value as they can from their workers. And they have a harder time doing that when their workers have a union to advocate for them. So this is all you really need to know, is where the money is going. When you see what billionaires are funding, what massive corporations are funding, that should tell you all you need to know about what you should be, as a working class individual, what you should be against. And just to be a little more clear on some of that stuff, right to work is bad news for workers. A large body of evidence proves that as unions continue to lose power, economic inequality grows, as I showed you. CEOs and shareholders take home more profits while worker paychecks shrink. Studies show that worker wages are 3.1% smaller in states with right to work laws. And to put that in a dollar value, if you are a worker in a right to work state, not only do you make about $1,600 less a year than workers in non right to work states, you have less employer provided health insurance and significantly lower retirement plans or pension plans. It's a pure, clear benefit for corporations at the expense of workers. And quickly on the secret ballot. The problem is the secret ballot isn't so secret. In reality, labor leaders argue it's hardly a democratic process suggested by its name. During unionization campaigns, companies routinely hire consultants to explain to workers during work hours why starting a union is such a bad idea. These consultants can also hold one-on-one meetings with workers. Businesses defend this practice as free speech, but unions see it as intimidation or, at the very least, an imbalance of influence. Union officials can lobby workers too, but only outside the workplace. Hence the stories about goons showing up at your door during dinner, reported case of intimidation by employers vastly outnumber those by unions. So this idea that, workers are going to be bullied into supporting the union, the employer does that during work hours. Why shouldn't people who are supporting the union be able to argue their case as well? But there you go. Amazing. Amazing exchange. Incredible learning experience for everyone. Hope we see more like this in terms of just the attitude. Because again, senators like Mullin do not deserve the respect that they, try to claim they deserve. We're talking about somebody who broke House ethics rules to make as much money as he could for himself while complaining about someone making $190K a year, somehow stealing from UPS drivers when this guy's worth tens of millions of dollars that I'm sure his plumbing employees are not seeing even a fraction of. These clowns are just that, absolute clowns.